Hello, world. It's John Pinto, your roving realtor, Bon Vivant video blogger, podcaster, home chef, raconteur, telling stories. And what story we're going to tell today? Today, we're going to do a walkthrough with John Dudek from Sage Settlements. How are you, John?
Doing well, doing well. Good to be here with you, John.
We're going to do a walkthrough of the different parties in the transaction when doing a structured installment sale. So let's just do a quick review for our viewing audience. As opposed to paying cash and paying out almost 40% of your long-term capital gains in federal, state, and Medicare income taxes, we do an installment sale and get into more favorable tax brackets, a structured installment sale, not with a private party, but with MetLife. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's walk through what the different parties are. Now, John, me looking at this as a real estate broker, my metaphor for this is going to be how I deal with a 1031 exchange. Even if it's an owner occupied property, it's the same kind of a walkthrough. But let's use an income property as a metaphor for the walkthrough with the parties. Before the realtor, the listing agent, lists the property and puts it on the market for the seller, the listing agent is going to confer with the qualified intermediary, the 1031 company, the seller's tax attorney or CPA, and they're going to address issues like what the basis is in the property, what the fair market value is in the property, what the existing loan is in the property, how do you match the loan amount in the up leg, what is the purchase price in the up leg going to be, how do you create a completely non-taxable event, how are we going to do, quote unquote, the Missouri waltz, where we're going to put the property up on the market, secure a buyer, put them on hold and have them sign the 1031 documentation, then go find the up leg, enter into an agreement with them, and then at close of escrow, we're going to trade our down leg with the owner of the up leg, and the owner of the up leg, who takes the existing investor's property, is going to sell it to the third party pre-arranged buyer. Sounds similar to an installment sale, doesn't it?
Yeah,
One, two,
yeah,
three.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the installment sale. I think one metaphor, looking at it like a 1031 exchange, is the listing agent, the seller, you, Tanis Sage Settlements, the tax attorney, the CPA, are proactively financially modeling what the sale of this property would look like if it was a straight sale paying taxes, but then also looking at the seller's capital gains taxes, tax brackets, and then finding the sweet spot in coming in over an extended period of time under certain tax thresholds. And those entities that I just mentioned, including MetLife, then financially model the perfect structured installment sale. Can you comment on that process?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a mouthful. So yeah, but that's you're right. I mean, when someone's looking to do one of these transactions, they're looking to sell one of their properties. A lot of things to consider, a lot of things that they're weighing against each other, but each one's going to be different. You want to find the right amount of time. How long do you want to spread out this sale? How long can you spread out this sale? How much liquidity do you need right off the bat? How much can you defer it out? Because the longer you kind of push this out, you spread out your sale and reduce your tax liability, the more you're going to save in taxes. But the flip side of that is the less, obviously, principal and interest you're going to receive each year. So it's kind of a balancing act, but that's where we all put our heads together. And like you said, we present many different options. We talk with the advisors and see what fits right for each individual seller to get them where they need to go.
Very good. And so then after you do all that financial modeling, with the seller, number one. Then the listing agent, I got an idea, Mr. Seller, on how you can escape being a prisoner, a tax prisoner in your house. Have you talked to John Dudek? Have you talked to Tanis Kelly? Bring in the CPA, bring in the attorney. Everything's financially modeled in advance. And I'm going to think that this may be above your pay grade, but you probably want to have some kind of a reference, if not an addendum, to the listing agreement, stating that the intent is to do this installment sale. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. I'll lean on you as the realtor and expert in that area, but I think it's good to make sure that that is known that the seller, this is what I want to do. I want to do an installment sale because the buyer is going to have to agree. They have to come on board. There's a few forms they need to fill out. So when you're listing it, letting it know that this is a condition of the sale I think is a great idea because it lets everybody, it shows transparency. Everyone's on the same page. You're not going to have anything's come up at the last minute and blow up any sort of deal. So I think that's a really smart way to do it.
Yeah. So my question was about the listing agreement. I'm going to say unilaterally, it's a good idea because you want to have clarity for everybody, especially the realtor and the seller, that this is the objective. But then in addition, you do have to disclose to the buyer and the cooperating agent, if there is one, that there is going to be an amendment to the purchase agreement referencing the structured installment sale and MetLife. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, the buyer. And I'm sorry, I jumped to the
No,
next
that's
phase
okay.
of your question. Absolutely. But yeah,
Yeah.
the listing agent and the seller should definitely be on the same page. But then you want to get the buyer and their agent on the same page as well. It's like you said, transparency is the word. You drop this on any party, 3 days a week before closing, and it's going to cause some heartache. So make sure everyone understands this is what we want to do. Make sure everyone has a chance to let their advisors review the paperwork and do their due diligence on IRS Code 453, how installment sales work, and it's going to make for a much smoother deal.
Yeah. So again, let's talk about some metaphors. When a listing agent and a seller want to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange, there's a reference in the listing and on the MLS and ultimately in the purchase agreement with the buyer that there's some additional paperwork that the buyer needs to sign, um, helping the seller facilitate their 1031. If it's a probate sale, there is some additional paperwork, some additional amendments that the sale is subject to the confirmation of the probate court. Everybody goes in with their eyes open. And then in this way, there's a heads up on the MLS. In the listing agent's disclosure package, they probably have a copy of any addenda or amendments that are going to need to be part of the purchase agreement, referencing the structured installment sale and MetLife. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah. Again, there'll be a full packet of paperwork, just like in the 1031 and the probate code that you mentioned, where the everyone has to acknowledge that the structured installment sale is being performed, that their advisors have reviewed the information, that they're aware of all the terms and conditions. So it's just another step, but they want to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
Right. I think there's an additional component of the due diligence on behalf of the buyer and the buyer's agent. And that is similar to the listing and listing agent's due diligence on the buyer, their proof of funds, and their loan pre-approval. There's going to have to be some advanced disclosures made on the financial strength of MetLife, since MetLife is going to be an essential component in this transaction. So I think everyone needs to be mindful that in addition to the listing agent populating the preliminary title report, the roof report, the termite report, the home inspection report, the environmental hazards report, the plat map. There should also be copies of the structured installment sale addendum, the role of MetLife, and some kind of a summary of MetLife's um, financial situation. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. Yeah. I mean, the more information you can have to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on and that they see how what type of financial institution MetLife is. Because again, I'm in the insurance world most of the time. You're in the real estate world. Those worlds don't often collide. So things that I take for granted and things that you take for granted, the other one of us may not. So I think it's good that, when I hear MetLife, I just think of, these guys are rock solid and there's nothing to worry about, but that might not be the case for everybody. So the more information we can provide to show proof of their history and what type of partner they are, the better.
Let me advise you on ways that you could deal with potential skepticism on participating in the seller's structured installment sale on the buyer and the buyer's agent side. Most listing agents in the San Francisco Bay Area, uh, if they're going to take a strategic approach to listing the property, let's assume that even an appraiser will tell you, I could only appraise the property within a couple of percentage points, high and low, on what I think it's worth. So, what strategic listing agents and strategic sellers will do is they will make sure that they're listing the property at a very, very competitive price to ensure the maximum number of eyeballs on the internet, a maximum number of eyeballs on the multiple listing service, the maximum number of people walking through the front door, the maximum number of people looking at the disclosures, and the maximum number of buyers, agents, and buyers making an offer. So if you package the listing very efficiently in terms of price, disclosure package, installment sale disclosures, MetLife disclosures, you're going to create a sense of competition and urgency with that property. And if you do a good job preparing the buyer to participate in the seller's installment sale with no real skin off the buyer's nose, I don't think you're going to have a problem on the buyer and the buyer's agent's side. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I'd hope. I mean, and you know better than me, but it's my understanding it's a seller's market right now. I mean, you mentioned inventory is low as it's been for a number of years, and so when properties that come up for sale, there's going to be some competition. There's going to be hopefully multiple offers, and if the seller is steadfast and says, "I want to do this," there's hopefully they get a buyer that's willing to differentiate themselves with an offer. And that's another point, something we haven't talked about much. We're always discussing it from the seller's standpoint. And if you're a buyer and you're looking for a property that has more than one offer on it, and you want to stand out and show that you're going to not only agree to this transaction but help them earn pre-tax income and defer their capital gains, what a great way to put in a unique offer on a property and hopefully steal it away.
That is a very good point. It's a really good point because the inclination is to look at it from the seller's point of view. But if the buyer is bringing some benefit that the other buyers don't have, that is certainly attractive to the seller. So let's just quickly summarize all the players. I'm gonna think that in my realtor-centric world, the realtor is the hub and everybody else is the spokes. So the realtor goes to the seller and talks about the structured installment sale. He brings in John Dudek and Tanis Kelly. They bring in the CPA. They bring in the tax attorney. They start storyboarding and financially modeling the structured installment sale. They all agree on the ideal number of years payments, monthly, annual, how much proceeds the seller takes in a year of sale, how much the annuity looks like over the years, the months, the payment. We talked about a $250,000 threshold in California. Then the property goes on the market, and then you're bringing in the buyer, the buyer's agent, the buyer's agent, the buyer, the title company, the buyer's lender, and then the whole thing goes together at close of escrow, the way we discussed. Does that sound like proper choreography to you?
That's how it should work in a perfect world. Yeah. Get get the buyer, the seller and all their advisors on the same page, understanding here's what I want, here's how long I want it, here's how it works for me. And then once you go out and get the buyer and their lender, as you know, we have a title company that is more than comfortable with this transaction that's going to make sure it goes smoothly from there. But yeah, no, I think you laid it out pretty nicely.
And the operative word is in a perfect world. And this is what experienced realtors bring to the to the party. They can storyboard and financially model the transaction from start to finish, put in all the component parts. So that way, the transaction is completely thought out and predictable and relatively frictionless with lots of velocity with the exact outcomes that you're looking for, rather than closing by accident with total chaos.
Yeah, no, I mean, frictionless is a good way to put it. If you put this all together late and try and drop this, I've said this a number of times. You try and a seller tries to bring this to a buyer a week before closing. You're going to have friction. There's not going to be velocity. There's going to be a ton of friction. There's going to be some pushback. They're going to think that you're trying to pull something over on them. So that's why we like working with you so much, John. I mean, you're a realtor that understands this transaction completely, can set expectations for your sellers and your clients, and that's a big key to making this thing work.
Very good. Well, this all sounds very exciting. I really enjoyed this episode, walking through with the different parties in a structured installment sale, a mystery to most people, but I think out of necessity, because of the highly appreciated nature of real estate in 2024. Baby boomers changing their priorities and looking to escaping tax prisoners in their own homes, looking more to subsidize their lifestyle with predictable cash flow, structured installment sales through Sage Settlements and John Dudek and Tanis Kelly is the right product at the right time. I should do a commercial for this. What do you think?
Yeah, really, you're hired. No problem.
Very good, very good. So, John, how do our viewers get a hold of you if they want to storyboard and financially model their own situation?
So we'll make sure on these recordings that my phone number and email are available. You can see my phone number down below my talking head there. But Jay Dudek at sagesettlements.com. My partner Tanis Kelly, T Kelly at sagesettlements.com. That's SAGE settlements.com. Call us, email us, text us. We're looking forward to working with you.
Very good. And I want to thank the viewers for watching yet again this podcast. And we will see you in the next podcast. Bye for now.